Well, today was a big news day in terms of coverage of the case of the murder of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. And we've got a lot to talk about, including a lot to cover, including a press conference by the district attorney's office and the LAPD, as well as some information regarding the night that, or the night before the Reiners were discovered, and some some footage from a podcast back in 2016 as Rob Reiner and Nick Reimer were promoting their movie Being Charlie. A lot going on in this case, and I think it's going to help us get into the mind of Nick Reiner. Though, I mean, that's just for our, I guess, education. Nothing's going to bring back the television and movie icons that were the Reiners. Stick with me. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello there, my friend, and welcome back to another true crime conversation with me, Gavin Fish. Thank you very much for being here. Wherever here is, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. But on this channel, we like to cut through the fluff and sensationalism of true crime. We like to get down to the nitty-gritty. If that's what you like, then I'm glad you're here. You found the right place. Now, in this case, we're in the state of California. And that means that we're not going to get very much. And there is a lot of rumor. There is a lot of speculation. We try to stay clear of that stuff as much as we can, but we're not going to be able to on this one. Not until we learn more from the investigators. So, yeah, we're gonna. I think that maybe the best place to start here. Robin says she's in a state of disassociation right now. Who do we have here? We got Fredonia, PA. We got Arizona, North Carolina, British Columbia, Kansas City, Missouri. Disassociation, Washington State. So glad that you guys are tuning in, and tell me more. Bay Area, Lake George, New York. Yeah, tell me where you're from. I just love that. I just love that for some reason. Okay, let's just do a quick little recap. Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reimer, who met and I think were married in 1989 or 1990. They've been married a long time. They have 3 children, all grown up, adult kiddos. Rob Reiner is also the father of a 4th, a daughter who he adopted when he was married to Penny Marshall. Those 4 kids, I think, are in a state of real grief and mourning right now. I know that those of you who joined me on this channel join me in I guess expressing our condolences to that family and to the several close friends, and also to the industry that they served and worked in for so long. It's just a terrible, terrible tragedy that probably could have been avoided, though it was a long time coming. So I think where I want to start tonight is there was a press conference that was held live a couple hours ago that I didn't, let's see. Normie Von Ormy says, Jake, the other brother, worked at a local news station as a reporter, was a wonderful, hardworking young man. Yeah, it's just so sad. Scotland's in the house, Houston, Texas, Portland, Maine, Fresno, California, Utah, West Virginia, Erie, PA. God, everybody's in the house tonight. So why don't we start with that DA presser? I think if I push my button, it's just going to start. No, it's not. Good. This took place just a couple hours ago in Los Angeles. It is about 13 minutes long. By the way, we're going to go a little long tonight because we've just got so much to go through. I try to keep things to an hour, but we're going to go a little long tonight. This 13-minute, 20-second clip from the press conference is going to give us a little bit of information, a little bit, but not really the nitty-gritty that we want. Of course, I've already said we're gonna have to wait for that. This is California, but here we go.
My name is Nathan Hochman. I'm the District Attorney of Los Angeles County. Today I'm here to announce that our office will be filing charges against Nick Reiner, who is accused of killing his parents, actor-director Rob Reiner, and photographer-producer Michelle Singer Reiner. These charges will be 2 counts of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of multiple murders. He also faces a special allegation that he personally used a dangerous and deadly weapon, that being a knife.
So just real quick, and I'm just going to beg your apology, the indulgences for the interruptions. Is what I do on the channel. But we had heard a couple of different things. One, that their throats were cut. Ugh, I hate to even think about that. And 2, that they had been stabbed to death. Both of those things can be true, by the way, but we now do have confirmation it was a knife.
These charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. No decision at this point has been made with respect to the death penalty.
California does have a death penalty, but it effectively does not, because they have not put an inmate to death in 50 years, something like that.
We have requested, and currently Nick Reiner is being held without bail. Now, in announcing these charges, I also want to announce that they're just that. They are charges. Charges are not evidence. Evidence is something that we will be presenting in a court of law to meet the standard of...
I'm going to make a correction. It hasn't been 50 years. It has been about 19 years, almost 20 years since there was a execution in the state of California.
Proof we meet in every criminal case, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, to 12 jurors who you'll unanimously have to find that we've met that standard to prove the charges we bring to court. Right now, with respect to the process, once the charges get filed this afternoon, Nick Reiner will be then brought to court. He is going through medical clearance, something that everybody who gets arrested and gets held in a Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department jail goes through. Once he is medically cleared, he will be brought to court to be arraigned on these charges. At that point, he will enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. Now, prosecuting these cases involving family members are some of the most challenging and most heart-wrenching cases that this office faces because of the intimate and often brutal nature of the crimes involved. Rob Reiner was a brilliant actor and director, an iconic force in our entertainment industry for decades.
Which is huge in LA, right?
His wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, was
it's the whole economy down there.
Iconic photographer and producer. Their loss is beyond tragic, and we will commit ourselves to bringing their murderer to justice. I want to thank LAPD Chief McDonald, who is here today, along with Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton from the LAPD, and LAPD Captain Scott Williams, and the entire Robbery Homicide Division, who literally has been working around the clock to gather the evidence that have led to the charges we're going to be filing today. Also from my office, I have Assistant District Attorney Maria Ramirez. I have Director of Specialized Prosecutions, John McKinney. I have our Head Deputy of Major Crimes, Craig Hum. And I have the 2 prosecutors who will be leading the prosecution in this case, Assistant Head Deputy of Major Crimes, Habib Balian, and Deputy District Attorney for Major Crimes, Jonathan Chung. They will bring their decades of experience to holding this murderer accountable for his actions. At this point, again, you will hear in the media rumors, you will hear speculation, you will hear hearsay. What I'm asking everyone to do is to rely on trusted sources. If it doesn't come from the District Attorney's Office, from LAPD, from the Coroner's Office, or from the courtroom itself, then there's a good chance you are hearing misinformation.
Yeah, there's a good chance, sure. But also, Sometimes it does turn out to be true. And I recognize the importance, I guess, to the fidelity of the courtroom and the court proceedings, that there be a good jury pool to select from. And I totally get that. Also, I am way more concerned with transparency and way more concerned with getting the news out. I just am. So at the risk of there being information that turns out to be wrong, I hate the words misinformation and disinformation. There's just such a political attachment to it. But at the risk of getting incorrect information, I think it's perfectly natural, and it's perfectly fine to use sources that, as long as there are multiple sources and there's good journalistic efforts to confirm things, or very good efforts to attribute things that have been said, but not to speak as if they are true, just to speak as if they were said, is fine. And so I don't know. I kind of roll my eyes when I hear somebody like this tell us, "Oh, don't do that." Like, no, you won't give us information. That's the thing. You won't give it to us, so we're going to go looking for it.
Because at the appropriate time, the actual evidence involved in this case will be presented in a court of law.
Likely not. Likely not. He most likely will plea, so the information likely won't ever come out. And that's why it's important for good journalism to take place.
Ask for your patience until that is done. But again, please do not rely on rank speculation, rumor, or hearsay to believe that you understand anything about what went on in this case.
Yeah, okay.
I'd now like to turn it over to Chief McDonald.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. And it's with deep sadness that I address the tragic loss of Robert and Michelle Reiner. On December 14, 2025, LAPD officers from our West Los Angeles division responded to a death investigation at the 200 block of South Chadbourne Avenue, which is in the Brentwood section of Los Angeles.
Hey, let me pause this real quick. Emmy Nikolov. No, there are 4 children. There are 3 children of Rob and Michelle Reiner, and there's a 4th child, the oldest daughter of Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner and Penny Marshall. There are 4.
On entering the residence, they discovered the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Reiner. Detectives from our Robbery Homicide Division Homicide Special Section immediately initiated a comprehensive investigation. The evidence gathered led to the arrest of their son, Nick Reiner, who was taken into custody later that night without incident in the Exposition Park section of our city. Today, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has...
We've actually got photos of his apprehension that were published to Instagram and then later taken down, but we've got those. We'll get to those in the headline section.
Formally filed charges against Mr. Reiner for the murder of his parents. This case is heartbreaking and deeply personal, not only for the Reiner family and their loved ones, but for our entire city. We extend our deepest condolences to all of those who were affected by this tragedy. I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our criminal justice partners, the District Attorney's Office led by D.A. Hochman, and everyone who worked tirelessly on this investigation. Their swift action, professionalism, and commitment to justice have been instrumental in bringing clarity and accountability to this case. The LAPD remains steadfast in our mission to protect life and uphold justice. We will continue to support the Reiner family and ensure that every step forward is taken with care, dignity, and resolve. Thank you.
Not the world's greatest orator.
We're going to take some questions. Yes, right here in the front.
Could you talk about why you feel this case rises to special circumstances?
So special circumstances is a situation where one of the enumerated factors that lead to elevating in some ways a first-degree murder case to a special circumstance first-degree murder case occurs. One of those special circumstances is called multiple murders. Here we have 2, and it qualifies under the definition of multiple murders to allege the special circumstance in this particular case.
Chief,
I saw over here.
Nick Reiner found, and was there any evidence on him indicating a crime, and did he say anything?
Yeah, he was found with good, solid police work, investigative tools used by robbery, homicide, and gang and narcotic division detectives with the U.S. Marshal Service Task Force involved as well. So we're thankful for the work that was done. I won't go into talking about what was found or anything that could potentially taint the investigation.
Chief, one quick follow-up question,
Yeah.
sir. Given Nick's history of drug use, was there any indication that he was under the influence at the time of this crime?
No, thank you again. That's another question I can't touch.
And following up on that, is there any evidence of mental illness in his background?
Yeah, you can touch.
I'm sorry, please repeat the question.
Is there any evidence of mental illness in his background beyond the addiction?
The evidence, any evidence, if there is any, of mental illness for his background will be coming out in the hearings that will occur. We anticipate, again, after the arraignment, the process will go through the normal process a case like this goes through. At the appropriate time, if there is evidence of mental illness, it will be presented in court and in whatever detail the defense seeks to do that.
We
Yes,
do
I
have
am.
information on what the defense is, by the way, or on who the defense is. We'll get to that.
We don't anticipate any significant delay more than is involved in a first-degree murder case with special circumstances. These are some of the most serious charges that a DA's office can bring against anyone. And we anticipate that the discovery that we will produce to the defense will be robust. It will be very involved. They'll want adequate time to review it. They'll want to go through every single factor that they can ascertain in the defense of Mr. Nick Reiner. So again, this will proceed along the tracks that many of the first-degree murder cases proceed. Do I anticipate it being particularly fast? No. I anticipate it being very thorough.
You know, I appreciate that answer. And let me tell you the reason I appreciate that answer. One, this is a guy who cares about the fidelity of the law, right? He's like, and it sounds like, hey, we're gonna do this by the book. The defense is going to get a very robust discovery file. We are going to give them everything that is required under the law, which is everything that's exculpatory. And the defense is going to want to go through that. And so will this take a long time? I imagine there won't be speediness to it, but it'll be done thoroughly. And to me, that's an indication that he cares about the process. He cares about the law. He cares about protecting the defendant from, let's call it, malicious or unfair prosecution. That the prosecution be fair. That the prosecution be thorough, and that the defense have an opportunity to create a good defense. And I know you guys are already talking about it in the live chat. Alan Jackson is the defense attorney here. We're going to get to that in a little bit. So he has hired a very good defense attorney. I mean, this guy represented Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Karen Reed. This guy is, he's a good attorney, maybe the most expensive attorney in the nation, maybe the top 5, something like that. But I do appreciate the DA's response to that. It's like, no, it won't be particularly speedy. The defense is going to want time, but it will be thorough.
Yes, right here.
Cause of death and time of death, can you share any information about that?
We are
Asking
not at
about
this time.
cause and
Yes.
time of death.
Yes, right here.
Did the members of the Reiner family help with your investigation so far, and did they provide any information or assistance which led to Nick being arrested?
Asking if the Reiner family gave any assistance that helped in the investigation. Of course, he's not going to be able to answer that.
Let me defer to the chief on this.
Hi, I'm Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, Chief of Detectives. We don't have any specific information we're going to release at this time regarding the family's information they provided. As we move forward, that
That means they did provide information, reading between the lines there.
information will be discussed in the appropriate venue, which will be the court.
Yes, in the front here.
Sorry for the chief. Can you talk anything more about just not the condition that Nick was in when he was arrested? Was he a resident? Was he walking around? Was he observed by people in the neighborhood? Like anything else you can tell us about it?
Asking about the condition of the residence.
Specifically, he was arrested in in a public area in the Exposition Park area near the University of Southern California campus. He was approached by the officers,
That was a rumor last night that he was near USC, and it turned out to be true.
and he was arrested without incident. There were no indications that there was no indication that he was going to resist or anything like that. He didn't flee or anything like that. He was taken into custody without issue, and he was transported to our police headquarters facility.
Take a question back there, yes. He has been alleged, one of these special allegations is that the murder was committed with a deadly weapon or a knife. As to where and how the weapon
Okay, so that confirms the knife site. Well, we already talked about that.
was located or will be located, that will actually be evidence we'll present in court.
We got two more questions.
Let me take a question over here.
Give us a timeline of when you think the murders occurred, because now we know that there was an altercation on Saturday night at the party. Do we know that this happened Saturday night or maybe Sunday morning?
I'll defer to the chief on this one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have that kind of specificity yet. We're waiting the coroner to be able to try and determine as best they can at this point time of death.
Chief, where were the victims found? Can you say where the victims were found?
We'll take the question back there.
Yes, can you tell us who called 911?
Chief, if you know.
Asked who called 911.
Okay, so in terms of how the Los Angeles Police Department became aware, it was a request from the Los Angeles Fire Department, who responded to the scene first. We responded to their request for assistance at the scene of the incident. Our initial West LA officers that responded determined that a crime had occurred, and they immediately notified our robbery homicide division. They've responded, and they have taken over the investigation since that point.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll take one more question. I'll take it right here.
I know you're hesitant to talk about sensitive evidence, but based on the evidence collected to support these charges, did that include an admission by the defendant to the alleged crime?
So any statements made by the defendant at any
not gonna
point in
answer
time
that.
would be the type of evidence we will be presenting in court. Let me take one. I'll take one last question right here.
Sorry, I have a question.
Hold on one second. I just identified this gentleman.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at me.
Sorry.
We have an estimated time for completion of the autopsy and the information coming from the medical examiner to your office and to the detectives in the case.
We do not have the estimated time that it will take. We know that they are working on it expeditiously, but as to when they deliver it, we do not have that estimated time. I'll take that one last question back there.
I was just wondering, I know these types of cases are especially difficult. How much do you take into account what the family wants when it comes to charges when you're dealing with a domestic situation
Asking how much they take into consideration what the family wants.
like that? And does that factor into whether you will
Does it factor into what they charge?
parole or possibly death penalty?
In these cases, like any of these cases, we will take the thoughts and desires of the family into consideration in making our decision. Thank you all very much.
All right, so that was the press conference. Before we move on to the next bit of media that I want to show you guys, let me see what you guys are talking about over on the live chat. Bring you on in here. Let's see. I can't tell. Talisa Luther, I guess. Nick Reiner was a majorly troubled soul. I think that is true, and we're going to get into that a little bit for sure. Robin says, what I struggle with is that his son had to unalive one parent at a time, so the other parent had to have known what happened before they also were unalived. Probably. Yeah, I think about those, unless there was like a blitz attack on one and a blitz attack on another in another part of the house, which we don't know. To my knowledge, we don't know if they were found together, if they were found apart. Have no idea. But I struggle with the same thing, right? The horror of understanding what is happening and trying to process what's happening before before your life is taken. Emily Hart says Alan Jackson is his attorney. Indeed, we're going to get into that a little bit. Talisa Luther, a little part of my childhood is gone now because of this. He was the director of The Princess Bride. Yeah, Rob Reiner was the let's say, one of the creative drivers of so many parts of our society here in the United States, actually in the whole world. The Princess Bride might be the first or second movie that was completely quotable for me. I can quote that movie from beginning to end. I can tell you the entire script of that movie, and that was a Rob Reiner thing. And he pushed William Goldman to do it, and William Goldman didn't want to make the movie because he was so afraid that what he considered his masterwork was not going to come across well on the movie, right? And of course, I mean, it was perfectly done. Perfectly done. And by the way, if we can just do Gavin's book club for a second, that might be the best book I've ever read. The Princess Bride. It's written as if it's being condensed from an ancient work by a fictitious author named S. Morgenstern. It is brilliantly written, so funny. So many things didn't make it into the movie. Of course, it was Goldman who wrote the screenplay, right? So he adapted the screenplay from his novel. But yeah, but beyond The Princess Bride, I mean, Stand By Me might be the first coming of age movie that I ever watched that I loved, right? Think about When Harry Met Sally, right? That is the ultimate. That is the best romantic comedy ever made, in my opinion. The very best. A Few Good Men, right? I mean, A Few Good Men, I actually saw in the theater something like 4 or 5 times. It's just so perfect. So yeah, I mean, that might be why it's touching us all. I mean, not only is this a horrific crime and we're grasping to understand what happened and why it happened. That's the main thing that we're grasping to understand, why it happened. But also we're struggling with the whole piece of this, just how much the work of mostly Rob Reiner, but also Michelle, meant to us over the years, right? I mean, yeah, I talked about this last night, but When Harry Met Sally had a completely different ending until Rob Reiner met Michelle Singer. And then he worked with Nora Ephron to completely change the ending because he was finally convinced that there could be a happy ending. So yeah, it's this is a hard one for a lot of us. I think he's going on about that due to the rumor tags that tend to be bad. Yeah, okay. In Hollywood, sure. Yeah, that officer does sound a little bit like he's from the East Coast, for sure. Emily says, do you think Nick is using his trust fund? Supposedly he still I'm sure. Yeah. An indigent person does not hire Alan Jackson. It doesn't happen. Does not happen. Ohio Palm Mom says the prosecutor isn't all about being neutral. He ran on a Law and Order platform, and in the presser, he says he's the killer before he's even charged. Yeah, but that is what is the word that I'm trying to say? That is the privilege of the charging personnel and the prosecuting personnel. They can say this person murdered that person. They don't have to say it is alleged. They say, and one of the reasons I think for that is they've got to be able to confidently project exactly what they believe happened, and they enjoy high immunity, high official immunity. So yeah, he's not about being neutral, but Ohio Palm Mom, I don't think that if I did say neutral, I'm sorry about that. What I mean is he cares about the fidelity of the law. There's a process here. We're going to follow the process. I'm going to play my part. We're going to do everything above board. We're going to give all the exculpatory discovery file over to the defense. The defense is going to want to spend some time on that. To me, he cares about the fidelity of the law. That is not neutrality. In fact, he shouldn't be neutral. He is a prosecutor. What if someone overheard Nick and Rob's argument that didn't like him and saw an opportunity? I'm sure they have cameras all over their house, though. Yeah. Um, I don't know that anybody is seriously thinking that there was somebody else that was like, hey, I can pin this on Rob. I mean that's possible, but yeah, I doubt that. Robin says, I saw in an interview where Sally Struthers said while Rob Reiner was playing Meathead that he already had the rights to The Princess Bride and was always thinking forward. Yeah, I saw a cool little interview with him talking about Carol O'Connor, which was pretty cool. Very cool. So anyway, that great comments, guys. Great comments. Let me move over, if we can, to this one here. I'm going to bring it up here. This comes from a podcast. This is about 21 minutes long. This is why I said we're going to go long tonight. This is from a podcast back in 2016. And I learned about this by reading, I think it was Rolling Stone today. The entire podcast episode is about an hour long. Paul Mercurio is, I don't know his act. He's a comedian, and but I'm not somebody who follows him or knows him, but he had this podcast called Two Chairs and a Microphone. It's changed its name since, but he had Rob Reiner on, kind of promoting Being Charlie. Now, Being Charlie is a movie that was written by Nick Reiner, was produced and directed by Rob Reiner, and it is semi-autobiographical about the struggles that Nick Reiner, I always want to say Reimer, I'm so sorry, Nick Reiner, it's semi-autobiographical about Nick Reiner's life as a teenager. And as they're talking about the movie, Paul goes, what does your son think? I think I included this in here, so you're going to see it. I just want to set this up. And he said, well, there he is right there. He could tell you. And then Nick Reiner joined. Okay, so the last 21 minutes or so of this is Rob Reiner and Nick Reiner talking to Paul Mercurio about this movie and about their personal relationship. And I honestly think it's pretty darn telling. So I wanted to discuss this. Here we go.
What do you think your son took away? You said you both learned what you were going through in a deeper way.
He's right here. You can ask him.
Oh, that's your son.
Ask him. That's Nick.
Wow, I guess I should have known that at the beginning.
Come in here.
Come in here, man.
He wants to know what you took away. Here, I'm going to get you one of these.
Yeah. Well, nice to meet you.
I was really interested in what you were saying about the baseball thing and how relatable it was.
Yeah. It just, someone said having a child is like your heart is running around outside your body unprotected.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put it any better. And I was thinking on the way here, and I try to talk about this stuff in my act because this is the stuff that I think matters, is like, I am at times that parent that I would mock who lives through his kid. And I'm sure when you were going through your pain, your dad was going through. My son is in a baseball slump, which is nothing compared to what you guys went through. And I literally couldn't sleep a couple of nights. And so I totally understand. So I'm curious, what did you figure out was going on with him during all of this as a result of the movie?
Well, I think I'm lucky in the sense that I have parents that care about me. And because of that, when I would go out and do, things like drugs and stuff like that, I'd feel a tremendous amount of guilt because I'd think, oh, they're thinking about me right now. They want me to do good. And most people don't have, not most people, but some people don't have parents that are, have any interest in them.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Like, now this again was almost 10 years ago. So, he's mess with my levels there a little bit. So, but he's recognizing at this moment, yeah, my parents love me. Everything that they did was because they loved me. And yeah, it was tough and everything, but at least I'm lucky enough that I have parents that love me. And that is an indication to me that when it all went down, there had to be some sort of psychotic break, some kind of mental illness, some kind of mental disease. And again, this is 10 years later, right? So this happened 10 years ago. But yeah, it just seems to me that that a person who recognizes how much his parents love him wouldn't go about ending their lives without some kind of break.
Talking with Nick.
I, by the way, am not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a social worker, or anybody that has any bona fides here. It's just my opinion.
Reiner and his father, Rob Reiner. Nick had a drug issue in his teens and beat it and wrote a movie about it. His dad directed it. And so you mind
that moment where he's like, "Hey, he was addicted to drugs in his teens and he beat it," and you can see Nick go, "Oh." I think he was probably doing drugs right then.
He just said something that really got me, which is that deep down he trusted that we loved him and that we were there for him, and that put a little bit of a brake on certain things. I mean, it's a desire to survive, you know, and that put a little, and I think that's where we made the mistake, is that we didn't trust that he had that.
If you supported him as opposed to you were punishing him.
Yes, we were definitely
meaning like
punishing
grounding him. You can't use the car. You got to stay home. All that
just
stuff.
the whole idea of throwing him into a rehab place. You know, just saying okay, and there's a punitive aspect.
But if you hadn't done that, how could you treat him on? You couldn't treat him on your own.
No, not on our own. But we could have maybe just worked with him with a therapist, and been a little bit more active in that way. I think we just overreacted, but I mean,
Nick,
I love hearing that.
What I love about this section of the interview, and by the way, like, I don't want to wax political because this is an apolitical show. Rob Reiner was a political beast. He really was. He was his point of view is very liberal, and he was very outspoken about that. But one of the things that maybe informed that for him was that he had deep feelings about things, right? And that's something that I can respect. Again, I don't like to wax political on this stuff because in this world, we need poets, and we need movie makers, and we need performers, and we need singers, and we need artists, and we also need soldiers, and we also need realists, and we also need bankers, and we, all of the things that kind of bifurcate us as a society. I think we need all of us. So that's all I'll say about that. But what I love about this part of the interview is that Rob Reiner's saying, during all that time, we were trying to help, but we were not doing what we were. So he's learning over time, right? We were punishing him. We were trying to help him, but we were punishing him, and that breaks the trust. He can't come to us because he thinks he's going to be punished, right? It's just so sad how it ended.
He said that because I knew he has that in him, and there's a part of him that wants to survive, and he doesn't want to, kill himself or anything.
Why were you so deep into drugs? What do you think? Maybe with distance you can answer this, maybe not. Was the sort of the underlying issues for you that were driving you there?
I don't think this is any different than most people going through their teenage years, but I think that I was very, I had no identity and I had no passions. And I think the reason I had no identity was because, I have a famous dad and a famous grandpa, and they sort of, that fame sort of informs who you are. So I wanted to etch out my own identity with a more rebellious, angry, drug-addicted sort of persona.
Go the opposite of what.
What's really interesting about that is most of us are not children of the world's most famous director and the world's most famous comedy legend, right? So he's on a level way above what I understand. However, I do understand that idea of being the child of a well-known within our community, a well-liked, a highly revered father, and just wanting to be yourself. Just wanting to be yourself. Now, in later years, you start to say to yourself, I don't want, in your early years, you're like, I don't want to be in the shadow of my father or my mother, whomever it is that you're in the shadow of. And I think that's almost universal. to some level or another. And as you grow older, you start to say to yourself, oh my goodness, it's nice and shady there. It's nice and cool. I like it there. That's certainly what happened with me. But very interesting that maybe as that human response of being the child of accomplished people is what drove him into the darkest part of his life up until this point. Of course, the darkest part was Saturday night.
Your father and your grandfather are
Yeah,
in terms of
because
that. But did you also think you wanted to be, through the haze of all of that, that you wanted to be an artist of some kind, whether it's a writer or a director or producer, that you wanted to do something in this business?
No, I had no idea. And that's what aided to the drug use, was because I had nothing to fill my time. I had nothing to look forward to.
Well, wait, you're a teenager in high school. You're living, your parents, as famous as they are, seem like they're very normal people. Your dad coached T-ball.
Normal. We're crazy.
Well, we're all
neurotic
crazy.
like
My mother, yeah, we're right. But my point is, there are things to do in high school, right? Like whether if it's not sports, it's music, a chess club. I don't know. Your interest didn't really lie anywhere at that point.
Well, I was really into basketball, but I'm a white Jew, so I couldn't really continue that for a long time. And it just seemed like I didn't want to go into that business. But
Yeah.
now, I'm going into it as a drug addict of a famous.
It's kind of ironic that the thing that
This came out of it.
this
yeah.
came out of it, and you ended up do you find that I mean, obviously I know for anybody with an addiction problem it's day to day, but how do you deal with issues that we all have, and now that you don't have drugs to use? What is it? Can you talk to your dad and your mom more openly about things, or do you seek help other ways?
When he was saying before, like, how I was scared to get in trouble if I were to tell them the truth, because they always say, be honest, be honest, be honest, and that's the best policy. But it's kind of not the best policy when you're honest and you get in more trouble than you were if you were lying.
Exactly what my son said. I'm going to send you this link. I said to him, because, okay, it's the summer, okay. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited, but we go to a place. We go to a place up in. We got a place up in Connecticut. So I'm walking down the street with my wife, and he rounds the corner with like 4 or 5 of his friends, and I can see the shadows. And he's got a backpack, and one of the kids has a backpack, and I hear ditch it, and they throw the backpack. So as they walk by, my son's like all cool and doesn't really want to talk to me in front of his friends. I go, I'll pick up that backpack for you and keep it at the house, right? So I pick up the backpack, and it's filled with a bunch of Bud Light beers. And they had gone down by the railroad tracks, had a little fire, and they, whatever. And this is like the first time for us to confront that, right? So I then interrogated him like a lawyer, and I got it out of him that, he had paid for it. And, it was a lot of like sort of obfuscate, just sort of, I didn't do this, I did that. Okay. And I asked him on the podcast, why do you lie? And he said, because when you do the calculation of the chances of getting caught versus telling the truth and the ramifications of getting punished for telling the truth, you take the odds of lying and getting caught for lying. Which I think is exactly what you
or
just
living
said.
with the guilt of lying. You're like, I'll take that rather than getting.
Did you feel guilt? I don't know if somebody at that age feels guilt. Did you feel guilt?
I did honestly feel guilt. I'm not just saying that for sympathy points, but you feel bad when you lie to your parents.
Yeah.
But it's designed for you to lie, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I was fascinated by that, and when you did the drugs, I guess it sort of just alleviated all of that. It took you away from all of that, and it was obviously self-medicating, and just you were able to relax or feel relaxed. And
there was a level of self-medication. There was also a level of doing something radical and doing something to get outside of myself and comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is? I had a friend who was in AA. He ultimately died, literally killed himself from drinking. And I remember visiting him, and he was in denial. It was all these other people. He literally was that line, like they got it. Did you get anything out of being in those different facilities? Were you able to take anything away long term that's helping you?
You know what I really took away, and I usually bash the programs in AA, but I'll say something positive, which is the feeling of, okay, there's other people out here that suffer from the same thing that I suffer from, and they're willing to talk about it. And that's why I think we did this movie, is because we feel it's important to be upfront about this sort of stuff.
So how was it? I can imagine just me directing my son's work and then putting my nose in, and you're obviously a great writer. So they wrote the screenplay? I
Yeah,
would
he was
imagine, as the
22
director.
here.
You maybe
Yeah, no,
tweaked it in places.
I
32
worked
now.
with them. I mean, over the course of a year, I helped.
Was it hard to not to give him his space, and maybe, want something to be changed but leave it alone because he really felt strongly, or how did that? How was it for you working with him?
We hashed everything out. I mean, some things became fights, other things, we hashed it out.
He told me something that was really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I wish they could have hashed out whatever happened at Conan O'Brien's party. I think that he was in the deep. I think he was deep in a psychotic break. I really do.
Everything clicked after that. He was like, there's one person on the set that has to make the final decision, whether it's right or wrong, it has to be made, and that's the director. And so after I heard that, I was like, okay, I'll do what he wants me to do. I'll try my best on it, but ultimately it's up to him what gets into the movie.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, there were times when Nick would fight for certain types of things, and my first instinct was I have a lot more experience. But then as we went along, I realized that, I may have a lot more experience making movies, but I don't have a lot more experience on this particular subject, and particularly what the young guy is going through. So, I told him many times he's the heart and soul of the film, and he would have better insights as to what Charlie was experiencing than I would, and I would defer to him a lot of times.
And were you surprised to hear the things that he didn't understand about you, or did understand about you when you were going through that as a result of the process of writing and making the movie?
We both had no idea where each other were coming from, but then we
come on in, Romy. She just it's a
blockage.
Issue, yeah.
Is that's your?
That's our daughter. That's Romy.
Come in. You want to be on?
Oh, this is not about me.
Oh, all right. How old is she?
She's 18.
Oh, all right. Nice to meet you. Are you going to college next year?
Yeah.
Where?
Bennington, in Vermont.
Oh, yeah. I ski up there.
Wow.
My buddy John Fitzpatrick has a house up there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's great. Good skiing. And you'll probably get discount passes to go ski. So it'll be good.
The
nice to meet you. You're welcome to come on and talk if you want about anything.
I don't know. I mean,
Whatever you want. Nah, it's about anything. It's loose. It's a podcast. That's the beauty of it. So, you were saying, sorry, that what you sort of took away from his interaction with you over the script and the film.
Romy, by the way, is who we understand discovered her parents. So she was 18 here. She'll be 28 now. She's the one that we understand discovered her parents. It's unclear if she lived on the property or across the street. I think it was probably across the street. In their family compound, they had a couple of, they had a guest house, they had some staff rooms, and like a 10,000 square foot home. So it was quite the nice place, but we also understand that across the street, there was another home owned by the Reiner family, and I think that she lived across the street. At least that's what I think. I don't know that yet.
We both learned what each other went through during that time, but really the thing I took away from it was I got to see him in his element, sort of directing and doing all these things. And when I said that in the past, people would be like, well, weren't you on movie sets before?
Yeah, I was
but
just thinking that.
It's different because it's something I wrote. It's my dad, and it's something that we're collaborating on. And I saw he has sometimes a hard time expressing himself through just conversation, but through his efforts.
What do you mean by that? Because it seems like he's very expressive through conversation.
Well, we're on a show right now, but
oh, really?
Yeah.
No, but he's
I'm pretty quiet.
He's quieter, but he listens. He's a great dad, and like I just mean that like
listen to that.
He's best explaining himself when he's in his element.
He's a great dad. 10 years from now, young man, you're going to stab him to death, allegedly.
A movie showing how much he cares through that way.
Do you think that that's the reason you do what you do? Because you...
Emily, I like this comment. It kind of doesn't matter if he was psychotic. You're responsible for your own mental health. You don't brush your teeth. They rot. Don't stay in treatment, drug or mental. This can and does happen. Yeah, and by me saying that, I'm not trying to find an excuse for him. I'm trying to find an explanation. I'm trying to find the motive. And as we all know, the motive doesn't really matter. Not legally speaking. However, I mean, to to the curious nature in all of us, we care. Why? Why would he do this? I mean, he is on this podcast 10 years ago going, he's a great dad. He's a great dad. I have loving parents. And 10 years later, he's going to allegedly, reportedly, stab them to death. So seeking the why is what I'm doing here, not as an excuse, or maybe, I mean, I probably used the wrong word, not even as an explanation, just so that we can understand why, right? Of course, again, legally doesn't have to be.
Need. You're Jewish. I'm Italian. I think we're very much alike in a lot of ways.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was all Jews and Italians.
Yeah, in the Bronx. Yeah. So it's very expressive in this. You guys have all the money, but other than that, we're the same. But I do mean that.
But you guys got the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. We make a good team. Do you think that in some subconscious weird way or life sort of aligning up for you that, Rob, this business has helped you be able to converse with people when you couldn't do it off camera? And
I think so. I mean, listen, no matter what area you go in, whether you're a writer or a musician or an artist or you're a filmmaker, it's a way of expressing yourself.
True, Robin.
And sometimes you can express yourself through your work a lot easier than you can in real life. And I think that's one of the reasons people do what they do. It's a way of getting their feelings out, their thoughts out, and they put it out either on a canvas or a piece of paper or a piece of music.
Yeah, that happened to me. I was doing these big M&A deals, but then I started writing as a hobby, and I made some short films, and one of them got into the Aspen Comedy Festival, and then that led to stand-up, and I liked the idea of writing something. And initially I got into this because on a lark, I went to see Jay Leno at a private function, and I had all these jokes written, and I gave him the jokes, and he called me the next day and said, I'll hire you to start sending jokes in for the Tonight Show.
That happens a lot of time.
It's crazy.
These two guys who worked on The Odd Couple and then on Laverne and Shirley, Lowell Gans and Mark Rothman, they wrote a screenplay for a television thing, and Mark's father was a limo driver for Jack Klugman, and says, "Here, my son and his father wrote this. What do you think?" And they hired them.
And then he did my joke the following week, and it was the most
that must have been a thrill.
He called me up.
Something you wrote come out on the air.
Calls me up that day. Goes, "Hey, it's Jay. I'm going to do." I go, "Why are you calling?" Yeah, it's like, "Why are you calling me? Don't you have people that have people that have people?" He goes, "Nah, I like to keep in touch. I'm going to do your joke tonight." So I got a bottle of champagne. I don't want to make this about me. And
did he kill?
He did it.
Did he do it?
Yeah, I did it real well, and my head exploded. He paid me $50 for this joke. Now, I'm a middle-class Italian kid from Rhode Island. I'm working on these billion-dollar merger deals. They paled by comparison. And then I started to go do the stand-up, and I was living a secret double life.
Look at his face right now.
On Wall Street by day, and at night I would sneak around to dive bars working open mic nights in my little suit and tie, and there's a whole, and then I was very lost in my life for a few years because I thought I had my whole life figured out. Like I'm going to be a partner at the firm and I'll retire in Florida. And then this passionate thing hits me where there's that choice. Do I stick with the money or do I go where I'm passionate? There's no money. And I couldn't make a decision, and I was scared to death, and I was like looking to anybody for advice, and it was a very, very. I went through a midlife crisis in my late 20s. It was ridiculous, but so you're working on another screenplay.
Yeah, he was
said, right?
living in the guest house.
Yeah, and what was it about this that you thought could be a comedy?
Well, because the people that see this movie that have been to rehab, there's funny stuff that happens and there's funny stuff that's said, and like he said, my first instinct is to make this a comedy, but he was wanting to bring the more serious element to it. But there's definitely funny stuff that happens,
and there's funny stuff in the movie.
Yeah,
hopefully.
If you see the movie, I mean, there's a lot of big laughs in it. There's a couple of really funny scenes.
Is it hard to reveal that stuff for you? That would seem to be hard for me.
It's not hard to reveal that stuff. It's only hard to reveal that stuff to then get told you're a spoiled white rich kid, and it's like, okay, maybe all these things.
Well, who would say that to you? Not your dad.
No,
the
but
world.
The world. Listen, I had to talk to him about this. Listen, I know what it's like to be the son of, and to have people assume certain things about you, and it's
anybody would know
difficult.
His dad.
Well, how did you handle that?
Well, I mean,
obviously you didn't go to drugs, but you must have had those issues. Your father's an icon.
In the 60s, there was plenty of drugs around.
Yeah.
But you just have to know what you do, and that you have to block out all that extraneous noise. And it's hard for him because this is the first time he's, all of a sudden there's a lot of attention. People are talking, and he has the double whammy. He's got me and he got his grandfather, and they're going to say whatever the heck they want, but they don't know. They don't know what he's experienced. They don't know what he's gone through. They don't know why he's done what he does, and and it's pretty dumb, pretty ignorant.
Look how defensive.
Of people to say just because you're born.
It's actually beautiful, but look how defensive Rob is of his son. He's coming to his defense, and I wonder how many times over the years there were fights between Nick and his parents, and it just turned out okay, right? It turned out without any blood spilled, without any, swinging punches or blows or anything like that. And did the Reiners think that that night was no different?
Money and that doesn't mean anything. People have their own issues.
Human beings
regardless.
are complicated, messed up.
And also, it's like the Kardashians can go shopping and complain about how there's no air conditioning in the fucking store. And, no one bashes them.
Yeah.
It's like, I wrote a movie about doing drugs and having a hard time, and people still,
People
they
have
a
really
field
said
day.
stuff about that?
Oh, yes,
That's
absolutely.
insane to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
this
you
is-
have to keep yourself focused and know what
Whatever.
you do. Know what you do. This is what we set out to do.
Right.
And I told him, while we were making the movie, I said, I don't care what happens. I don't care if, they don't even see the movie. Nobody wants to. I said, we're winning. We are winning.
Yeah.
Because we're throwing ourselves into our work.
Yeah.
And good things are coming out of it.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it can help some people, because we've been on some shows. We were on a show the other day on.
That moment right there where he's looking down, his mouth is open. That just looked like he left the moment, doesn't it? Just looked like he left.
On NPR, where people were calling in and were saying, thank you so much for, sharing your story. And they were telling us about what they were going through. And so if you can be helpful in that way, then that's good.
And that must be good for you, Nick, to hear that, because it counteracts the negativity of people saying, oh, you're just a privileged white kid and why, all of that, right? I would imagine when you're touching people that way.
Exactly. And that's what we do it for, is to start that conversation.
Do you see yourself like in this business now in some capacity, or is this sort of just, look, you're young. How old are you?
22.
All right. So you're young. I was in my late 20s and just did a complete career shift. So is this just get this out and you want to go somewhere else with your career, or do you even know? And not that you have to know. It's young. 22 is young.
When I first started working on it with him, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this forever. And then
Let me just pause for a second. Guys, we pride ourselves in this community of being the best chat on YouTube. We're the best behaved, right? You can express your opinion, but do so respectfully and understanding that not everybody is going to share your opinion. Okay, so if I'm seeing comments like this from our lead moderator, the comments are off the wall. That means they're having to work hard to protect our live chat. Please don't be that person. Please, 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 please. Okay, I think I saw an earlier comment that was the same kind of thing. Like, what is going on in the live chat tonight? Please, please stop if you are the problem. Okay, we welcome your feedback. We welcome your comments. Just make them respectful and understanding of other people. That's all I'll say. Okay, and then my moderators know what to do if people can't abide by that.
When we started doing some of this stuff and I started to catch some heat for, whatever, like
On Twitter and stuff like that,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I don't want to do this at
Yeah.
all. Like,
Yeah.
this sucks. And but now I'm like, he gets it even when he goes on the Tonight Show or whatever. You're the son of Carl Ryan. So it's just the nature of it, I guess.
They still call me Meathead. No matter what.
By the way, I had Norman Lear on the podcast,
Oh,
and he
yeah?
talked about how great you were, and he talked about
Norman was the
the
best.
show. One of the episodes was so huge; it had like 60 million viewers, and there was people went to the bathroom and the water table changed in New York when they
Is
went
that
to
true?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That means the people went to the bathroom. They were all flushing
Flushing
at
the
the same
toilet.
time.
Literally
There's millions
affected.
and millions of people.
Yeah. And he said, you had said real quickly as we wrap up, Rob, that Carol O'Connor was a support person for you in terms of like helping you move you toward directing and
Well, not moving me towards directing, but he taught me a lot about acting. And that was that if the script is good, if there's a good story, the actor doesn't have to do that much. You have to just deliver it. I mean, you don't have to do any kind of, handsprings and pyrotechnics with your emotions and acting. Let the story and the dialogue support you. And that was great advice.
I want to end on just a very funny story that I heard you tell, if you don't mind telling it, and it's the Mary Tyler Moore story where you touched.
I did. I talked about on Colbert.
Yeah, and
that's a true story.
It's a real. Do you mind telling it real quick?
I don't mind. I mean, it happened.
Hilarious.
I mean, it's not. I'm not telling tales out of school because Mary talks about it in her book.
Yeah.
And she's actually told a story on the Letterman show. I was 14 and I was like, my hormones were raging. And Mary Tyler Moore was like this really sexy. She was 24, 25, you know. She had those hot capri pants and very skin tight.
Yeah, I liked it.
I don't know what possessed me, but I just went and grabbed her tush. Just gave her a grab, and
Don't do
it was
that.
like the devil was making me do it. And my father called me into the office and
Definitely
says to
don't do
me,
that.
Did you,
all right, young men
did
that are
you
watching
grab
this.
Mary Tyler Moore by the tush? And I went, yeah. And he had a big smile on his face and said, don't ever do that again.
That's my boy. Well, it's a really great story, and I wish you much success, Nick. And it seems like things are going great, and maybe you write a movie for me, and I'll get a little part in it or something like that. And
about a father who hounds his kid to play baseball.
No, you know what? We'll get your sister in it. He hounds his kid, who's his daughter, about skiing and being on a ski team in Bennington. So we'll all be in it.
There you go.
And then your dad shows up, and he's the old crusty ski guy that lives in a lodge with no heat. And,
Wait a minute, I think you're onto something.
and there's no plumbing, but he has the wisdom. He was burned by the spotlight of being an Olympic skier, but now he has the wisdom of life to impart on the three
And
of us.
everybody's scared of him because they think he's something, that he's a monster, but
It's
he
like
turns out to be the...
It's like the Home Alone guy. Who looks
I'm going to
across-
call that good, right? But that is the, I mean, that was 10 years ago, not quite 10 years ago, right? And yeah, there were just moments in there where he tuned out. There were some moments in there where he's talking about how much he knows his parents love him, about how much, his dad is so great and everything. And then within, a little more than 10 years, or not quite 10 years later, his parents are dead, having been stabbed to death by, according to the LAPD and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, by their son, Nick Reiner. It pushed the right button, Gavin. It's not going to the right button. Let's see. ¿Y por qué no? ¿Por qué? I'm trying to get this. Here, I'll just... There we go. Yeah, for some reason my buttons stopped working. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. Sorry guys, let me fix my buttons. So yeah, less than 10 years later they would be dead on the floor of their Brentwood mansion, having been stabbed to death, according to the LAPD, by this man, Nick Reiner. Now, we've been going about an hour. I've still got a little bit to go because we got some headlines.
True crime headlines.
Pow. Okay, for the headlines tonight, we're sticking with the Rob Reiner, Michelle Singer story, okay? Because there's so much going on there, and I told you guys that I would be touching a couple things, and this is where we're going to do it. Yeah, Nick Reiner hires lawyer Alan Jackson after his arrest. This is according to the Hollywood Reporter. It's been reported several other places. Let's see. Nick Reiner, under arrest for after the murders of his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, has hired criminal defense attorney Alan Jackson for legal representation. Jackson on Tuesday, this very day today, confirmed to the assembled media while walking into a December 16th hearing before the LA District Attorney that he was representing Nick Reiner. He added Rob Reiner's son did not attend his scheduled arraignment hearing as he had not yet been medically cleared to be transported to the courthouse, which we also heard from the district attorney. LA-based Jackson recently secured an acquittal for Karen Reed for second-degree murder and manslaughter charges during a retrial and has also represented Weinstein, Spacey in their own sexual assault trials. As a former assistant head deputy for the Major Crimes Division in the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, Jackson secured a murder conviction for music icon Phil Spector. So there's Mr. Jackson. We all recognize what he looks like. He is an accomplished prosecutor, very accomplished defense attorney to the stars, maybe one of the most expensive attorneys in the nation. I haven't called the office to see what his hourly rate is, but I imagine it is astronomical. Moving on, we've got a few TMZ stories. Now, again, it's TMZ, right? But sometimes they do good reporting, and so I'm just going to go ahead and read these, okay? Nick Reiner interrupted Bill Hader at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party, report alleges. I don't know if you guys watch or listen to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, but his Christmas party is the talk of his podcast. All of his guests love the Christmas party that he throws. Apparently there are 2 major Christmas parties that happen on the same day every year, one being Conan O'Brien's. And people just love having invitations to this. Okay, so Nick Reiner was acting out of place, according to this. I'm reading the article, guys. Nick Reiner was acting out of place at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party hours before his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, were found stabbed to death in the couple's home. And now there's a report of a strange interaction that concerned partygoers. According to NBC News, Nick allegedly interrupted comedian Bill Hader mid-conversation during the holiday gathering Saturday night in LA. The outlet reports Hader told Nick the conversation was private, and Nick then slipped into a 1,000-yard stare before storming off. This is what Mr. Reiner looks like these days. As we reported, Nick also got into a loud shouting match with his father at the same event. In recent months, Rob and Michelle were struggling with how to deal with Nick as he continued to battle mental health issues and alleged substance abuse. Rob reportedly brought Nick to the party to keep an eye on him. And then hours after the party on Sunday afternoon, Rob and Michelle's daughter Romy discovered their stabbed and bloodied bodies at their Brentwood house. Rigor mortis had already set in, meaning they had been dead for hours. We're going to read what TMZ has to say about that. Again, it comes from unnamed sources, so we don't know. LAPD releases Nick Reiner arrest photos and murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner. So here are some images that were taken that were posted to Instagram. I clicked on the link. They are no longer there. And I think the article mentions that. But police have released photos from Nick Reiner's arrest on suspicion of murdering his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, and they show the alleged killer being handcuffed by members of the LAPD and U.S. Marshals Service. In a social media post, the LAPD's Gang and Narcotics Division shared photos of Nick surrounded by cops with his hands cuffed behind him. Officers made the arrest Sunday night at Exposition Boulevard and Vermont Avenue near a train station, which you can clearly see in the background. A couple more images. Before the post was removed, the caption read, Gang and Narcotics Division, U.S. Marshal Task Force assisted Robbery Homicide Division in locating and arresting a double homicide suspect. And I think there's another one with him on the ground. They took it seriously. Now, according to the press conference that we saw, they took him into custody without incident. But there are the photos in that article by TMZ. Looks like they're covering everybody's faces, including Nick. So, all right, last headline that I want to bring you tonight. talks about the rigor mortis. This again from TMZ. Rob Reiner and Michelle were dead for hours before gruesome discovery. As Nick Reiner prepares to make his first court appearance, TMZ has learned Rob and Michelle had been dead for some time before their daughter made the grisly discovery Sunday. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ when police arrived on the scene Sunday afternoon around 3:40 p.m., rigor mortis appeared to have set in Rob and Michelle's bodies, meaning they had been deceased for hours before their daughter, Romy, arrived. Romy arrived at the house and found the bodies, then called police before calling longtime family friend Billy Crystal. Police interviewed Romy at the scene, continues TMZ, who by then was joined by a female friend, and we hear she told officers her brother Nick was, quote, dangerous, close quote. We're told she also said that Nick was living at the house, but he was not there when she arrived, insinuating he fled the scene. Sources tell us, TMZ, the scene was something out of a nightmare with the bodies butchered. The devastation was described as the actions of a, quote, madman. So those are the headlines that I wanted to bring you guys tonight. Let me check in on a couple of comments before we move over to our last segment. And let me bring up our victims here. Just to check in on what you're saying. Doesn't look like, let's see. Bring this up. The addiction reigned supreme, and he did anything to get the money. Okay. Robin has been a fanatic for an entire year. Now listen, if you're going to be an addict of the fen, not an addict of all the other stuff. And Robin, thank you very much for supporting me for so long. This is a tragedy. Julie Martino says, my theory is they were asleep. Terrible that the parents are paying for Nick's defense. Yeah, that's kind of the nature of generational wealth, right? So in bed, but Michelle survived until ambulance. I have heard that. And so we've got conflicting information, but for some reason, I'm kind of like leaning toward believing that she was long dead. But that's speculation, right? It has nothing to do with fact. Let's see. Sandy McMasters again says that she thought Michelle passed in the ambulance. That is something that has been shared online. I have not found any credible source that has said that, though. Okay, let's move on, shall we, guys? You know what time it is? It's time for 3 questions.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
All right, you know what we do in this segment. In this segment, I answer 3 questions that you guys have sent in to me. Now, you can send in questions to the email address 3questions@gavinfish.com. 3questions@gavinfish.com. That it is spelled out THREE, questions@gavinfish.com. You don't have to send in 3 questions. You could send in 1, you could send in 100, just whatever you want. And nothing's off the table. I solemnly swear that I will answer each question to the best of my ability, and that I will be honest in doing so, that I won't lead you astray. And we've had questions ranging from boxers or briefs to the mysteries of the universe, to what should be the normal sexual habits of a married couple. I mean, it could be anything. But let's get into question number 1. Shall we? Question number 1. What is my favorite holiday? My favorite holiday is probably Christmas. I think my favorite memories as a child surround Christmas. It is the time that we tend to all get together. Kimberly, who is my snuggly bear, my sweetie pie, my one and only, she and I have entered the stage of life where our children are on their own, are leaving the nest. And we don't always get together, but if there is a time that we're going to get together, it's going to be around Christmas. So that's my favorite holiday. Question number 2, will Kimberly, by Kimberly you mean my sweetie pie, my snuggly bear, my one and only? Yeah. Will Kimberly ever join you on a live stream to give her opinion on a case? So my wife bless her soul, this is just not something that she wants to do. And I don't blame her, because it's hard for a lot of people to do, you know. I'm not saying she's afraid of it, but I know that public speaking is a thing that people fear. And going on YouTube in front of dozens of people at a time, that can be intimidating. Kimberly doesn't do that. However, Kimberly does join me from time to time when I go to, like, for example, last year, she was with me at CrimeCon UK. When we did True Crime Convo here in Western Pennsylvania, she was with me. So yeah, those are the best places to meet my better half. And third question of the evening is, do I have any tattoos? Do I have any tattoos? See, this is the question where I am actually tempted to lie. But I already solemnly promised that I wouldn't do that, so I will not. I do not have any tattoos, not a single solitary one. I am not anti-tattoo. I'm not pro-tattoo. When years ago, in fact, I think we were living in our first house that we bought, so it would have been in the first 3.5 years of our marriage, and we've been married 26 years now. People around us were getting tattoos, and we're like, hey, maybe we should consider something. And we full on talked about it, and there just wasn't anything that I wanted to put on my body, you know. And I think too deeply about it, because there are some people that are just like, yeah, it's just another tattoo, whatever, you know, it doesn't really, but there's nothing that I care about attaching permanently to my body. And, you know, yeah. We have kids who have tattoos. It's whatever. Not my thing. Not my thing. So those are our 3 questions, guys. Thank you very much. And remember to send in your questions to 3questions@gavinfish.com. 3questions@gavinfish.com. If you have a question that you want me to answer, and guess what? I don't get tons, so if you ask a question, it's going to be on. All right? I think that's it for now, guys. Let me just check to see if there are any other times that you put GF in your comments. Emily Hart says, just give Kimberly a mic. She doesn't have to show her face. That's funny. No, I love my wife too much to even ask her to do that. So, yeah, guys, that is the show. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We may or may not be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day where I'm having some dental work done, and I don't know if I'm going to be up to it. I likely won't. So let's just plan on me not doing a show tomorrow. I typically do them Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But do remember before we go that you can always reach out to me on my website, gavinfish.com. If you click on this little icon right there, that will take you to a form that you can send anything in to me if you want to. If you click on the little fishy up here, that will take you to the fish tank where we hang out on Facebook. You are always cordially invited to join us in the tank if that is your thing. No guilt, no pressure, but if you want to, you are cordially invited to join us there. I wanted to say thank you to my patrons who continue to support me on Patreon, and for those of you who are members here on YouTube, that is huge. If you're thinking about, you're like, I don't want to commit to Patreon, I don't want to commit to a YouTube membership, but you do want to support me, there's a page on my website that spells out all the different ways that you can do it, and I deeply appreciate it and love you for it. With that, I bid you adieu until next time. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.